Hello, hello, hello. This is Matt Hodel, and see if I can talk for a whole 28 minutes straight. But this is a little drawing that I had to do for a client. His name's Kevin, and the idea is that he wanted a firefighter tattoo, and he did the thing that everyone does, and they go on the firefighter tattoo webpage, and they see a bunch of firefighter tattoos that all look pretty much identical with varying degrees of quality of work. You know, it's the Maltese cross, the flame behind it, or the there's that typical blue flame one, or, you know, just a bunch of turds that are supposed to be firefighter, but nothing about it says tough guy firefighter at all. It just says shitty tattoo firefighter. But so we just talked about him and what he was thinking about, and I did this kind of sketch of a gorilla holding the Maltese cross guy instead of just the Maltese cross floating and sitting there by itself. So I did sketch on him, and then I took and put tracing paper over my sketch that was on him, and then kind of retraced that, and you can see I got the ruler on the side for scale, so I know exactly, you know, how big I was planning on doing this. And so I take a quick photo of the tracing paper with a ruler next to it. Now I have my scale and my dimensions, and then I throw that onto my phone, and then I import that into this program, Sketchbook Pro. It's a cheap $80 program. It's very intuitive for any artist. It doesn't have all the intimidating features that Photoshop has. So if you're, you know, just getting into digital drawing, it's pretty good. These brushes I'm using right now, I just took some time to make sure they felt like the brushes or the actual pencils that I would normally use. So you see here, I've done kind of a quick layout and gotten my angles and, you know, loose proportions of what a gorilla would look like, and now I'm kind of screwing with the head because I want that head to really sit on that blocky body. I don't know if you can see the lines, but there's a backbone drawn in there, and that head, they don't really have a neck. They're like big football players, or football players are kind of like big gorillas, vice versa, whatever. So yeah, this is like the beginning, and nothing. You'll see as I go on. That's a neat feature right there. I can, since I've got the Maltese cross drawn on a different layer, I can hit the transparency lock, and then once the transparency lock's on, when I go back over it with another brush, the only pixels that'll change are the ones that have been drawn. So everything that was blue is now red, and now I can see that cross on the gorilla. And now I'm taking that cross away and drawing through. Even though, you know, I'm not going to tattoo any of that stuff underneath there, I still have to know where it's at, so that all the pieces fit together correctly. It's that implied, like if a line goes into one side of the box, you expect it to come out the other side of the box at the same level, the same straightness. But if it doesn't, then you only assume that there's a wonky curve in it, you know. So it's the same thing with drawing this gorilla. It's just trying to figure out where all the pieces would be at. At this point, I'm just kind of drawing a gorilla out of, like, memory, I guess, or out of what I think a gorilla might look like, just to kind of minimize accidentally stealing a different image. You know, like if you copy too much from the beginning without just kind of loosely getting, if I don't loosely get my idea down, then what ends up happening is I end up stealing a lot of whatever I'm looking at, and sometimes it's not the same pose or not the same direction or not the same lighting, and then next thing I know, I've got lighting coming from the left side at the top, but at the bottom I was stealing the legs from a different drawing, and now the lighting's coming from the right. So you can see I'm beefing up his arms and getting the bigger Popeye forearms. The head still looks really wonky at this stage, and it doesn't look like I really drew his hips in. I kind of floated them, but it's kind of a bean shape where he his upper torso bends forward and his lower hips kind of bend forward, so it kind of folds over like a bean. And now you can see I'm still just really quickly, and this is all on the same layer. I'm not like jumping layer to layer to layer, and I was just treating this just like I would on tracing paper. The only advantage is I can do shit like this, where you can see I elongated the head to get more of that gorilla face. It was just a little too round. Now I'm dropping the mouth. I think I can get rid of it in a second, where I don't like it at all. There's a shape I'm looking for, and this guy is not. I think by the time I get done drawing this mouth, if I remember, it was looking like it was going the wrong way. Throw a chin in there. So yeah, this is all super loose. I think I get frustrated in a second, and I go ahead and pull out a photo of a gorilla to kind of get it down. Once you learn how to draw a basic face and where everything goes, it really applies to anything that has eyeballs, nose, and a mouth. Just the proportions might change a little bit, and that's all depending upon what kind of attitude you want it to have. It's kind of a pinch effect. If you want something to be more aggressive or more angry, imagine like a happy face drawn on a balloon, and then take your finger and shove it right in between the eyes, and the nose will kind of come up on that balloon, and the eyes kind of come together and get smaller, and the mouth kind of gets a little bit bigger. So when you're drawing a normal face, depending on how aggressive or non-aggressive you want it to look, I always think of that spot right between the nose. All lines kind of lead to that. You can see even the implied eyebrows start going to the middle of the eyes, and nostrils start shooting towards the middle of the eyes, and edges of the mouth end up coming back around towards the middle of the eyes. So that's all I'm really doing to get that more aggressive look. So what am I doing here? Oh yeah, here's where I go to some of my references of gorilla pictures. Let's see which one I pick. Here we go. There's more of a realistic one. You can really see the proportions and how it's got that bigger chest and those huge arms. I mean, the legs are they look pretty tiny, and the toes are more clubby. They're like little sausages. Everything's like a hand, but it just bends a little weirder. Let's see, what am I doing here? So it looks like I'm still... Did I create a new layer? Okay, yeah, I created a new layer, and I've lightened the transparency of my first sketch, because all that really was getting kind of the proportions in place. You can see I didn't even really define the feet and the hands too much. I just have them as boxes. Start with a broad brush and go to the small brush. Here I'm kind of playing with where I want this, because I think I've run into the problem now of how's the hand actually going to be grasping this cross. He's kind of going to be protecting it, or just like to be cheesy, like the old days when you had here's what I was thinking like the old days when you had a warrior and you had a shield, like whether it was a Viking clan or something, they would have who they represent on their shield in one hand and their weapon in the other. So I think I end up putting a big axe in his hand, and it's pretty obvious without doing all the cheesy shit like wrapping a hose around him or putting fire behind him, or I think you'll get the idea that this guy is the ultimate mascot for a badass firehouse. When I'm drawing these things up and I'm trying to put these things together, I really do want someone's tattoo to blow away their friends, who did go on Firefighter and get the typical generic shit, and they walked into a shop and you had a turn and burn situation where the guy maybe waited an hour to finally meet his artist, and the artist says, what do you want? He says, I got this, and the artist has already been working for 7 hours, and he says, yeah, sure, and doesn't really give two shits about what he's doing for you. I mean, that's what this guy did, is he brought in this image. It was he emailed me with this blue flamed Firefighter image, and I can't just bring myself to do it anymore. I can't just schlep some turd on a guy just for the sake of $1 bill. I really want to give somebody something that after sitting down with them, you go, man, this is a tattoo that's going to fit you. Oh, here we go. We save. That's a pretty good idea. Save your work, idiot. So now I'm kind of clubbing these sausage fingers together, and the old trick of, you always group 2 and float 2 when it comes to the longer digits, and especially with like girls' fingers. Even like if you watch, look at Playboy photography or any old pinup photography, and when you see a model, their toes are always pointing somewhere, and their hands are always pointing somewhere. So usually when you have a dominant finger, it's going to point in a direction, and then the other ones are going to fall towards that, or so I got that one pointer finger. He's really at the end. It doesn't come up, it doesn't go down and grasp like the rest of them. It kind of flips up and kind of has a little bit more direction and value. It doesn't look so lumpy, but then the rest of them kind of fall in line, and that'll get refined some more. Here I am. I'm still like getting the shapes of these legs. You can see I put bigger calf muscles on and defined the kneecap. And since it's all really defined with hair, you got to think of it as, cognitively when we scan, we only see shapes really. Everything on top of the shapes is like a diffusion. So you see a massive shape of a gorilla. Like if you look up top in that black and gray, you're going to see like a large, more of a triangle shape on the body. Like a more bean or oval shapes for the legs and arms. And when you look at them, and then the hair on top is just the diffusion. It's just the texture. If we shaved the gorilla, it'd still have the same shape. It wouldn't be furry. So, I don't really start adding the fur and stuff like that in until much later in the drawing. And the thing about diffusion is if you haven't really kind of exaggerated your main drawing, then by the time as you slowly put more and more of the diffusion on, whether it's like fur or clothes or scales or whatever, every time you layer all the detail that makes it unique to or pertinent to what you're trying to describe that image, every time you do that, you're slowly taking the exaggeration out. So you can imagine if I was going to do like a snake, if it just had a slow curve to it, and then I put all the detail on it, by the time I jump everything on it, the curve doesn't look as exaggerated. Or if I do even like something simple like a tree branch, if you do a real simple tree branch, by the time you dump all the junk on it with all the knots and flowers and the leaves, it all that extra diffusion actually ends up straightening out the branch more. So usually when I'm doing the preliminary sketches, like the stuff you saw first, everything's kind of a little exaggerated because you can see it. Everything's starting to stiffen up a little bit. That back arm right there looks a little weird. What I'm trying to do is get that elbow back and then the fist kind of more forward again, like a charging. And since I'm used to drawing humans, I'm still trying to do the meatiness of a big ass gorilla, but I'm working out the kinks here. And you can see it. Same thing I did up top. I got the two tight knuckles together in the middle, and then the floating knuckles on the outside, and the two knuckles are facing forward, and the pointer finger and the pinky finger pointing in opposite directions. They're kind of leaning out from each other, so it it's like just a perspective thing. You can see a little impliedness there. And I guess here's where I start putting the armor, or give him his weapon of choice. And the great thing about drawing digital, I think here we go. I start to fix this mouth. It's so badass the gorillas have big fangs. I mean, can you imagine getting bit one of these motherfuckers? It'd take your arm off. Like that lady that got attacked by that orangutan. It ripped her face off. That's pretty powerful. I wouldn't really want to be stuck in a thicket of bamboo and have one of these dudes charging at you, like dragging his knuckles and grab you and split you in half. So I'm doing this pose. I'm trying to show all those exaggerations. You can little things like the ape's right arm is the same angle as the ape's calf. Like that's a good juxtaposition. I like that. It's more of a balance and there we go. I'm getting a jawline in here. What am I working on right now? I don't even see where my thing's at. Oh, there you go. I'm looking at it and erasing shit. And I'm still playing with that back arm and trying to define it. You know, what I'm looking at here when I'm drawing that arm is not really I'm not really looking at the arm itself, but the negative space that creates. So not the actual arm, but like the space in between the top of the head, the top of the bicep, and the inside of the forearm, and then even as it closes off that hand and loops back around onto what's going to be the axe, you know. That's the shape I'm trying to figure out why it doesn't look right. And even on the backside, you have this like negative space shape that goes from what would be the underside of the arm to the elbow, and I mean that doesn't look, you know, very believable either. So I think I go back into all that and fix all that up. Here I am trying to get the eyeballs down so that it looks, you know, a little more menacing. And again, all these, you know, if I took a red pen, you can see where all these exaggerated lines, they all go to the middle of the eyes. You can see right there I put an indicator of the side of the head, you know, even though heads like, you know, even human heads are kind of like an ovally shape, they still have like a side plate, you know, that's where the glasses go on. They, you know, it's funny, you think of, and there we go, I squished everything together with my magic tools. And here's where I realized the mouth is backwards, and I just get rid of it and draw another one on. But yeah, you got to remember that, like, when you wear glasses, they're not round. They don't fit on you, you know, in a oval shape. They're actually kind of squared off looking. And but sometimes when we draw, we end up thinking that the whole head is round, and we kind of screw things up a little bit. But so I always like when I'm doing faces, kind of shade one side just to remind myself that there is a flat plane more on the side. Here I go. I fix this. I've made the face bigger for some reason, and it doesn't work. I fixed that again, I think. All right, so now I've thrown the shoulder farther back, the angle, and that's starting to make a little bit more sense. And I save it again. Here I keep messing with the face. Actually, I make it bigger there. It makes more sense there. Exaggerate. I probably could have made like the hands and shit bigger too. And now I'm just trying to find out the balance, like, because, you know, this is going to go on the center of his back. So do you center the cross and have the ape hanging off it? Do you center the ape and he's just holding the cross? I'm trying to find the middle. And I'm just playing, you know, it's the beauty of digital. You know, when I drew traditionally, I would have had to take a piece of tracing paper and photocopy it and start moving it around, and maybe I'd try to photocopy it smaller and move that piece around. And I mean, every time you go do that, it takes time. So, you know, every time you go photocopy, cut it out, put it down, you know, it's 5, 6, 7 minutes of just fucking around. And, you know, working digitally, you can just grab that layer and squish it around. And here we go. We make a little bit of, I call this the comeback, you know, throwing a detail in there that's like, ah, shit, I didn't even see that. You got the skyline of St. Louis and the cross. But yeah, you know, digital drawing, I've heard it compared to a horse versus a car. You know, if I live in St. Louis, and if I drove to Chicago versus rode a horse to Chicago, you know, I can make I don't know, I'd have to do the math, which I suck at, but I'm assuming I could probably make 10 trips to Chicago in a car before I could make one trip on a horse. So digital drawing's the same way. I can get, you know, 10 refined drawings done compared to maybe like 1 or 2 refined drawings done doing it traditionally. So it just makes sense to make the switch, and intuitiveness of it, and you know, the feel. There's different nibs on your stylus. It's just the tip, and you can find different tips that'll have the resistance on the screen. So as you're drawing on the screen, you know, if you used to draw with mechanical pencils, those actually move pretty quickly, like on Mylar or something like that. And if you're used to like a toothier paper with, you know, a number 2 pencil, there's a tip for that too, where it, you know, kind of grips a little bit more. And I switch back and forth, and depending on the brushes I'm using digitally, like if I'm doing things that were more like pen and ink, I'll switch to like a springier tip. But like stuff like this, where I really want the feel of drawing with the pencil, I use a tip that kind of feels like it has a tooth to it. So right now I have the first layer's gone. I've shut that one down. The second layer I've lightened up, and now I'm using a brush that I created that acts a lot like almost like a Sharpie, but with a little more, again, like a little more tooth to it. So it just feels a little bit better. I tend to use it a lot. The great thing about this brush is once all this black is done, and I'm putting all this black on a different layer. So this is the same thing as traditional drawing, only, I've taken that piece of transparency paper and put another piece of transparency paper on top, and I'm taking my micron out or whatever, and I'm, getting the outline that I want. But as you notice, I when I fuck up, I can, on these final edits, I'm a little tighter, and I don't really accept a line that's kind of a little wonky, or like, you saw it with one of the eyeballs, I drew it a little bit smaller than the original drawing, where if I was drawing with microns, it would have been like, fuck, I got to remember that I screwed that up, or you can get some whiteout out and, wait fucking 5 minutes for it to dry. Again, taking longer. So now here's another beautiful thing, is I just get rid of that cross, and I start, fudging these sausage fingers together. And making that look normal. And you can see I'm just popping it back and forth and seeing, make sure everything makes sense. Now I'm just going over the cross. And again, all this is on, all the black that you see is all on one layer. This goes pretty fast. There's a cool thing I'll do here in a second where I'll use one of the templates. I use that circle template, double tap it to make it a perfect circle, and then wham, I got a circle, So I really like that feature, is when you need straight lines or circles or whatever, they're all in this program. And I'm just kind of going through and, making when the fur goes back farther away, it's more grouped together and less exaggerated. When the fur gets closer to the camera, it's more exaggerated and more shaggy. And also depending on, picture fur on a straight line, and if they were all in a straight up and down pattern, and as soon as you move that line, how would the fur react? At the point of most exaggeration, the fur would be, like an accordion, spaced apart, and where it got bunched together on the inside of that curve, it would kind of they would all be bunched together. And so, as I'm going around the curves of this gorilla ape, what the hell's the difference? Get your paws off me, you damn dirty ape. Anyway, as I do that, you can see, it's like when I'm doing the fur, and this is one thing that tries to live in shit out of me when people tattoo fur and they treat all fur the exact same. As it's going around curves in space, you gotta kind of know that. And not just, you see all those people do a tiger head, and it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Have you ever looked at a tiger? They got like 5 strains of hair on their mouth. What the hell? So anyway, I got the, again, exaggeration. I mean, you figure a fucking ape would have a big ass axe. Here I'm doing another thing. This is on a separate layer. I'm actually putting in some quick shading, just so you can see there's the side of the head I was talking about before, really making sure the side of the head gets taken care of. I'm just putting in some quick shading so that I can really see ahead of time what gets pushed back, what gets pushed forward. The luxury of this is, while I'm tattooing, I'm not experimenting. I know, exactly where I want things to be, and I know exactly, all the preparation's done here. Tattooing is easy now. I've been doing it long enough that applying a tattoo is like a no-brainer. When you started, a piece of JD Crow flash, all the colors laid out for you, and so there's really no thinking about the actual design. You just had to make sure that as a practitioner it went on competently, and but as you start, drawing designs for clients, you can't just put a loose sketch down and then wing it as you go. That brain power gets taken away from, the application of the tattoo. And, if you use all this brain power now and just get it all laid out, you're done.